As hard as ranching is, you know, when you're out there riding and doing the things you do, you can understand why ranchers still do this. Gathering cattle and working cattle. To me, that's living. You know, there's a story behind every one of my paintings. This show is about those stories and my search to find them. Hi, I'm Steve Boaldin and I'm a cowboy artist. I travel to ranches across the country to gather authentic material for my paintings. Along the way, I have the rare privilege of meeting ranchers and their families who pass along the cowboy way of life. So join me as I capture these real cowboys, their horses, and their cattle on canvas. I grew up in Kansas. That's where I cut my teeth, learning to ride horses and rope cattle on our family ranch. Today I'm on my way to visit my brother Mark. When you mention Dodge City, most people think about outlaws, cowboys, and cattle drives across the plains. They think of a way of life that disappeared a long time ago. But if you look closely, you'll find the old ways are still here. Well, the good parts, that is. Around here, your closest neighbor may live 10 miles away. Well, we're just about here. These are Mark's corrals down here, and I think he'll be there waiting for us. As we drove up that long dirt road, I could see Mark was down at the pens. Yeah, I think I see him right up there. He's in the pens. Looks like he's getting ready to do some feeding or something. Pretty long drive out here. See what he's up to today. Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Steve.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
All right. My brother Mark, 99% of the time, he is out there by himself, figuring out how to make this work. So you might say he's a one-man ranch.
We're so far out in the country, the nearest city where everything is 28 miles, I guess, from here. When we first got this ranch, we moved in a manufactured home, and we've lived here all this time.
For 20 years, they had a modular home on this land. They lived out there. His wife, Tara, was a school teacher.
She drove nearly 30 miles every day during the school year back and forth.
And she did that for the last 20 years. But just recently, in the last year and a half or two, they moved to town.
But you can't run a ranch from 28 or 30 miles away. There's all kinds of weather issues and just day-to-day things where you need a place to get in, eat lunch, and stay overnight even for days at a time if, say, a blizzard would come in.
Well, they sold the modular home, and he had this little cabin built. It's basically a little shed that he's really turned into a really neat cabin.
Yeah, we're sitting here in an old cabin here on the ranch, which is fully remodeled to have places to sleep, kitchenette, restroom, and heater, and air conditioning.
So it's a really neat little place, you know, and it's really come in very, very handy. Early that morning, went out and saddled the horses, got ready to go.
We're just saddling up and getting our horses bridled and getting ready to mount up and go gather these cattle, bring them in so we can brand the calves today and process the cows and worm the cows today also.
Now normally Mark would be doing this by himself, but sometimes his wife Tara and his daughter Lorraine will come out to the ranch and help out.
Steve's gonna ride his horse. Lorraine's gonna ride the little paint horse. My wife Tara's gonna take the Ranger and help there. Scott's gonna bring him around and follow the calves along the fence lines. And everybody just spread out, look where they need to be, and hopefully in a short amount of time we'll have them here in the corral.
Okay. He kind of got us all lined out and told us the way things were going to work. And we had a plan of action.
Just ready to go. The clouds kind of darkened over. The next thing you know, we had a nice little shower going.
I'm on the Ranger, and it doesn't have a roof, but I had an umbrella in my car, and I just grabbed it, and that became my roof.
So what do you think, Mark? Is it just going to be like, going to clear up here in a little bit, you think?
Well, we see some blue sky now back there and a break in the clouds.
Yeah?
The weather was a little iffy. It was rainy and cold, and the horses were sensing it, the cattle were sensing it.
Cattle handle better too when it's not in wet weather. Changes their temperament a little bit too. I sure can't complain about the rain because we like having the rain. It's good for the grass. In the long run, it'll be a positive thing. So we'll give it a little time here, maybe eat our lunch and come back and resume where we started here.
When we went in for lunch, we had some really nice steaks. One of the nicest parts about my job is getting to eat steaks everywhere I go. Homegrown beef, no matter whether it's hamburgers or steaks, I mean, it's all good. Farmers and ranchers, there's a pride that they take, I think,
Father, we thank you for this day.
in the fact that this is cattle that I've raised,
Amen.
and this is what I'm providing for the world to eat. And it's true, they do feed the world. Farmers and ranchers is a basic root of what America is about and has to be. Boy, them steaks were really good, and that's just what we needed. Well, we're back at the studio now, and that was kind of the way the day started. We started off to work the cattle that day, and all of a sudden it started raining, and it wasn't supposed to in the forecast, but it kind of inspired me to do a rainy painting. So I decided to paint a rain scene. This, of course, is my brother Mark. This is really Mark's horse, and so he rides Billy Bob most of the time. I remember riding him back when he was just a 2-year-old.
Hey, Billy Bob, I rode this horse up.
He's now 15 years old, and he's been around a long time. Well, Billy Bob, he's just a real part of the family. Well, these rain slickers, you see a lot of them in paintings and stuff, cowboy paintings and stuff, but a lot of people don't know. These rain slickers were made for saddle. They were made when you crawl over a saddle, they've got a split in the back, and it just goes right over the back of your saddle. Covers everything, covers most of your legs. A lot of them have a liner inside of them, so they're pretty warm too. So if you're in a real cold weather or wet, rainy, or snow weather, they're perfect. You can wear a coat underneath them. So they're made for a saddle, really. They're made for just riding horses and cowboying. I try to be as accurate as I can. I mean, every detail in the saddle needs to be right. If I'm painting a Western painting, I want it to be true to life. And this particular saddle is Mark's saddle. He has had that saddle ever since he was probably 14, 15 years old. I remember when him and Dad got these saddles together, and he still rides that same saddle, just keeps fixing it up. It's lasted him his lifetime, basically. The name of the painting is A Rancher's Blessing. And out there, if you ask Mark or anybody out in that country, if they're gonna turn down, if it rains in the middle of their workday, they'll take it.
We don't ever want to turn down the rain in this part of the world.
Because it doesn't rain enough. It's pretty dry out there most of the time. Well, I tried to capture the mood of it too. You can kind of tell the horse is all kind of wet and his head's down. You can tell the wind's blowing. Mark's kind of like squinting, keeping under his hat just a little bit because the rain's coming in. So I wanted to create a mood with this too, just gray, and also in his mind this is a blessing, this rain. He's in there, and he'll be doing some more. We'll be doing a little bit more with him, so we can explain who he is.
Everybody had a good visit. All of a sudden we look up and look right out the windows of our little cabin here that we ate in, and sun come out, everything looking good, and we just said, I guess that's the way it's going to be, and we turned around and went back down, and it was a beautiful day the rest of the day.
And so it did turn out to be very nice, and so we decided, well, perfect, let's go on out and let's just resume where we were at and go ahead and work the cattle.
And it was just a gorgeous day, beautiful afternoon, gorgeous weather, calm winds, kind of unusual for this time of year, but beautiful scenery.
As hard as ranching is, you know, when you're out there riding and doing the things you do, you can understand why ranchers still do this. Gathering cattle and working cattle. To me, that's living. Well, ranchers feel wonderful about rain because they usually don't get enough of it. But there are some things that they are really worried about, and one of them is a blizzard. A blizzard is a huge snowstorm with high winds and low visibility. You know, the wind is blowing the snow around, it's just you can't see anything. And this is why people die in these things a lot of times. They get lost, they can't find their way back, and this is what happens to the livestock and the animals out there.
The last 2 days of April this year, we had 14 to 16 inches of snow.
Began to look out the window in the lights, and I couldn't see very far, and even in our yard light out there, you couldn't see that far. Snow was piling up, it was wet, and I realized we were in a full-fledged blizzard like we normally would get February and March, not April and May.
A blizzard hitting that late is just unheard of. You know, the cattle had already started shedding off all their long winter hair. They was slicking off. They were getting ready for spring. They were adapting. They had good rain, and the grass was green, and they were just ready for spring.
We've already had green on the trees and green foliage going on, and it's actually springtime in our mind. And we normally wait till April and May to calve so that we avoid those kind of things.
Because we calve in the spring, about 3/4 of our calves were on the ground at that time, and so when the storm comes, it just makes it more dangerous. When Mark went out the next morning, he knew that he would probably find some dead livestock. He found 2 dead calves and 2 dead cows. You know, just listening to what happened across the area and losses from other people, we feel very fortunate that's all we lost.
The snow covers up the fence lines, so the cattle just walk right over the fence. And Mark found his cattle, some of his cattle, 15 to 20 miles away. They usually go with the wind, they just drift, you know, and go with the wind. And they'll just go for miles and miles and miles, and they won't have anything to eat because the ground's all covered up. Another thing is the snow is all wet, it blows up in their nose, and it can just cause them to drown, basically. You know, as a kid, I'd been through a lot of blizzards in Kansas, but this one was really bad. And the time of year was just really, they were caught off guard. So I decided to do a blizzard scene. A lot of snow scenes are pretty, and you can still see the horse's ankles a ways, but this indicates this was this particular blizzard. 14 to 18, 20 inches. That's about where it would hit on the horse's leg. I really just wanted to show the ruggedness of the conditions that are out there. And you can see that it's really, really cold, and he's looking off into the distance. You can see his breath, you see the snow blowing. The horse has got his head down, and he's cold. You heard Mark talk about how his cattle were lost. And, I've just kind of hinted at there's a fence line there that's just been drifted over, and then cattle get out. He had cattle 15 miles from home. A lot of them had cattle 20 and 30 miles from home, and then they couldn't even find them. So him and Lorraine both rode their horses. That was about the only way to get around, without just getting stuck. In this particular painting, it shows that the old-fashioned way of, riding a horse is still very needed out there on the ranch. It really is. And I think this painting also shows the determination of ranchers and cowboys. And at this point, he's not going back home. He's just leaving the ranch to go find his cattle. So the name of this painting, I think, is The Searcher, because that's what he's doing. So that's why I decided to do this painting. So let's go back to the ranch.
We need to sort the calves off, run the cows through the chute, worm them, then we'll work all the calves, get them branded and turned back together and turned out before evening now. So We'll just slide on up there and get started with that process.
Okay.
Everybody can help me do the groundwork, sort in the alleyway, and get ready for that. Enjoyed that. Had a nice run across there. Beautiful with the sun on the green grass and the blue sky, and rounded those up. Got back to the pens then. We're able to go ahead and sort up the cows from the calves, get the cows that hadn't calved back out to pasture, the ones that had into a pen. When I began to build my pens and my pasture systems, I had to build it in a way creatively to figure out a way that where I could handle those cattle by myself or as a family. 2 at a time. So you're in here where you can't get hurt if you stay between the gates. And so our crew consists of me full-time and my wife and my daughter the other time. They are my major helpers in this operation. Everything's spring-loaded so the gate will pull itself back to its normal position, stay out of your way. It'll come around across and let's bring in 2 more. Perfect.
This is a process that he has, and he has this corral system that he's efficiently figured out how it works.
Great system.
And it works well for them. Mark and Tara and Lorraine, they get on the gates, and Mark tells them in and by.
Either in or by. I had the in gate, and he would usually do some kind of hand motion, and she had the by gate, which was usually like this.
She opens one gate for one cow to go in, and then I'm running the by pin, and Mark signals to show us.
By 2.
And then when they get this part done, Mark knows that he can do the rest himself.
Once you get those cattle in the corral, then I have to complete the job. That means cows need to be ran through a chute and dewormed, and the calves have to be processed and given their vaccinations and branded. And continue the process. That's just the way it works.
Oh, got him. Lorraine, she was born and raised here, you know, all the way through. She used to ride in the pickup with her dad when she was small, when her mom had to go teach school. I remember when she was real little and she started riding. She started riding horses and showing cattle, and she was in 4-H growing up. Her and her dad was in a thing called the Saddle Club together.
We were in a club called Saddle Club. Me and my dad both were in it, and you would sign up your horse and then go to these different little rodeos, or Shodeo is the big one that they had every year at their home town arena.
We put her in Saddle Club, and you know, I have pictures of those things, and to go back and look at those memories is just really a lot of fun. She was just a little thing, you know, but had all the confidence in the world.
I have 2 horses. The one that I've had the longest, I've had her for about 6 years. She's 16 now. She's getting a little bit older, but she's a mare, and she's Black Bay, I'd say. And I use her primarily for barrel racing. And then I also have a newer horse that I've only had for maybe about 3 months. He's 9. His name is Derringer, and he's a paint horse, and he's going to be my breakaway roping horse.
Well, when I'm at a ranch, my eyes are wide open. I'm always looking for ideas that I can come back with and tell a story about that ranch. And sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's hard to find something that speaks of that person. We were doing some roping together, and I thought, you know, this is what Lorraine is really into right now, and her and I rope together. And so that's how I got the idea to do this painting. She's roping. That morning she had her coat on still, and it was rainy and stuff, and you know, we were just kind of after the rain, and we started roping a little bit on the calf dummy. And so I decided just to paint her just exactly what she was wearing that day. You know, an oil painting is a longer process. The way I paint, you build layer upon layer, and you kind of do glazes and things. And so, you know, areas of this painting, like on the rope, I probably went over that rope 4, 5, 6 layers to just get the kind of depth that I wanted in it. You can tell she loves doing this. It's something that's in her blood, and she really works hard at it. And this is something that she enjoys. So I think this tells us a story about LaRae, right where she's at right now. My brother Mark, he's had to figure out how to do these things by himself or with his wife and LaRae. And he's got it down to a science. He really has figured out everything from corral design to calf chute that my dad invented. It's just amazing. And he's added on to those things. Got a system worked out where they could just bring in a few calves at a time, swing that gate open, and they just kind of fall in here and they don't even know it, and they're being trapped again, kind of like this system with here. And as they come in, then you can pull that on their head, bring this up and around, push them in, and then you've got them. And then you can just do all your doctoring, your branding, everything right there. But that's kind of basically how this little thing works. Slide it a little closer.
And everything we do for these cows, running them through the chute, branding their calves, and everything is for the calves' benefit. We need to have that calf marked in a way that if he gets lost, we can retrieve him and get him back and take care of him, you know. And we also have to have the preventative medicines in him so they don't get diseases and different things that would require something like an antibiotic later on. Hey Sarah, I'll get a couple tags ready and turn the chute on and we'll get started here pretty quick with that. See how they flow? You know, it just flows in a little circle. One guy can do it by himself because it's just here, there, around, there, around.
Okay. Just a shot and a couple of ear tags are missing.
Yep.
Okay.
Get those ready to go. Then when the right cows come through, I can re-tag.
And this stuff here is what?
It's the wormer or dewormer.
The dewormer. Okay.
The grass out there is, you don't see them, but it has little worms on it from this time of year that go along with the grass. When the cows eat the grass, they get inside of them and it slows down their ability to gain weight. And so we put this in them and this is supposed to last about 150 days to keep those worms down through the grazing season.
Okay. And it's just a one shot in their muscle?
Under the skin, sub-Q.
Okay.
So. What else do you know that God gave us when that runs out and it's all eaten up? Every year he gives us a whole new deal, and it goes through the economy every year and just keeps things going and starts over and keeps things going. We're part of that beginning raw material that filters through the economy and creates everything. It's the most essential industry in the world if you look at it. This is a special breed of people. Because people don't want to do this kind of work. It's too easy to do other things. And so we got a special breed of people that are willing to work and take a huge risk with everything unpredictable. Cattle are unpredictable, weather's unpredictable, markets are unpredictable. But these guys are willing to go take that risk and just do the battle. And when they get done, they're proud and passionate about what they do.
So we spent several days at Mark's ranch. You know, I spent that time observing, taking photos. We were filming everything we could. And, you know, it took a while to try to figure out what's going to really sum up this ranch. And I just think that, you know, when the idea hits you, it hits you. And so this is what I decided to do. Well, as you can tell, it's Mark. If you've seen anything on this program, you've seen him a lot. You know, Mark is a one-man show. And this is what I wanted to show in this. You see all those corrals he built himself. And so I kind of wanted to focus in on him. And this angle caught my eye. And it shows him working his element. He welded all this himself. He designed all this himself. What I found was interesting is, you know, he has these big metal plates on top of his gates. So I had to call him back because I forgot to ask him while I was there. And he goes, oh, Well, it's just kind of something I, invented. He said, you always see these gates that are sagging and dragging on the ground, and guys are having to drag them around. Well, this plate swings around and settles over the top of this plate when the gate's shut. And so when the cattle start jumping up on that gate, it's not going anywhere. This plate supports that whole gate. And I thought that was just such an interesting story. He never even told us that while we were there. I like the way that the composition comes together and the angle of it and the lighting. It just catches him where he's just real candid, I think. And he's just thinking about his work and just doing it. And so we just stop motion a movement in Mark's life. I hope you enjoyed the show and maybe even learned a little bit about the cowboy life. Join me next time for another cowboy adventure. I'm Steve Boaldin.